Sorry, Lauren, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Perfect, thank you.
Future. And Chris will be back.
Yeah, I never have to come to these.
It's because we do the staff person anymore.
Yes, I am.
No, we don't have a assigned staff person.
What do you mean? Well,
No.
Lauren's the large staff member. I'm still your secretary, but our video does most of my duties. Chairs, Mr. Chairman, does do
We have no one from the board.
We will call the meeting to order at 6:06 PM. I'll do roll call and then I'll need to take a nomination for a chair for the meeting. So Todd McCulloch,
Here.
David Kennedy.
Here.
Al Dasso,
Here.
Abigail Zillmer. Here. Okay, and I will take a motion for a nomination for chair.
I nominate David
Kennedy.
for chair of tonight's meeting.
I'll second the nomination.
Okay, so we have a first and a second. Do we have a vote? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries.
One.
Okay, we've done our roll call, so I would ask for a motion to approve the minutes from the last meeting.
I'll move to approve the minutes from the February 12th meeting.
I'll second the motion.
I was not present, so I cannot vote in the meeting minutes, given that I don't know what was discussed.
Then we would not have a quorum to approve the minutes. We'll push that off to a future meeting.
Okay, so then we wouldn't have any public comment on those minutes from last meeting, so. The item of business that we have tonight is to change the number of application opportunities there are for the Housing Betterment Fund.
Yeah, so currently we do it as a 3 times a year review. It was initially decided to do it that way because of anticipated staff resource requirements. It's turned out to not be the case, and to help people be able to apply when it's most convenient for them, as opposed to these kind of 3 random times a year. Staff has discussed among the different departments, and we would be fine moving to a monthly or bi-monthly review period, depending on the discussion that you guys have. The other thing that we would like to discuss is considering addressing the applications still in open session, but not video recording them. We're not statutorily required to video record these meetings. And so to help preserve a little bit of privacy for the applicants, one of the things that staff have discussed before this meeting is basically turning off the recording while the deliberations are going on. And then if we needed to go back into open session for anything, we would turn the recording back on.
I would assume that there would still be minutes
Yes,
taken for that meeting portion.
Yep.
So that there's a record of.
correct.
Okay.
Yep, and the public would still be able to be here. So if someone wanted to come in and sit in on the meeting, they're more than welcome to do so. We wouldn't be going into closed session. We would just be shutting off the recording.
So have you gotten feedback from the public that certain people are not willing to apply because of that?
I don't know that we've gotten anything specifically, but it's one of the things that we've discussed with Kristen and among staff as a possible reason that some people might not be wanting to apply.
Kind of a risk not worth taking.
Yeah.
All of the information is still public. I know this was discussed prior to us recommending the policy to the board. Is there a way to maintain privacy of individuals' tax return and sensitive information? And my understanding is that it wasn't, which is why you want to close just the video portion. But on the video portion, we really don't show much when it comes to the video aspects of it. So I'm not sure what we're gaining from that process. I'm not opposed to going just audio, but I'm not sure what we're gaining because we don't display it on the board or anyplace else as to what we're looking at.
Sure.
I'll talk a little bit more because I handle a lot of the program. So we actually wouldn't audio record either. So we don't, if someone were to put in a public records request for the applications for this program, we would have to give everything. We would redact all personal information. So a tax return would have the names and all of that redacted. And any bank account, all of that would be redacted. People could still look at it. They would still be able to get the names of the applicant. I don't foresee anybody in our community doing open records requests like that, but because it's funding, municipal funding, it has to be discussed openly. We just are in an affluent community like this, asking for help is difficult for some people. And we've had 2 rounds now with no applications. And so we are just trying to figure out what that barrier might be. And so if we could make people a little more comfortable that their name isn't being recorded everywhere. We already don't put the applications in the packets. We give them to you guys on the side. We are just trying to, like you said, preserve as much of that privacy as we can to get people to apply, and making that more often decision would allow those lower income families who probably aren't planning big projects, but more or less having to do them last minute necessarily, the opportunity to not have to wait months to even know if they're allowed to.
So what's the media as to how people get this information that this grant is outstanding or possibly is outstanding?
We do regular pushes on Facebook and through the website, and
I'm not in either.
I've dropped off information with the case managers at the senior center, and actually done office hours at the senior center trying to do some outreach into the community that's not just Facebook.
The Tribune has also ran articles, but also when we only are reviewing those applications 3 times a year, we haven't done promotion consistently, and it is hard in those winter months for people to plan projects that are months and months out. So our hope is also that with a more often review period, one thing we did talk about was going to those targeted neighborhoods where we know the values are lower and putting door hangers up. But we paused on that once we thought about this. And then when the new information comes out, that is something we've talked about doing, is to get those specific neighborhoods to know what is there. And then I think, Lauren, we also discussed, we're going to do something in the utility mailer, which does still go to a lot of people. A lot of people get it online. So that's the other plan we have, but addressing some of these changes before doing a mass communication would be important.
And I asked the question because I'm not on Facebook. And I don't regularly go to the village's site unless I need something. So we do get the Wanakee Tribune, although we're struggling with the combined paper at this point in time. I do read the village flyers that come out. But I also think about the people who this might apply to, and it might apply to folks who are older than me and, you know, may not be anywhere near as technologically, not that I'm savvy, but savvy as I am. So that's why I asked the question, because how are they finding out about this stuff?
Yep, and we want to do more targeted outreach, like Kylie mentioned, but we also want to make sure that we're giving them current information. So if we're talking about doing monthly or bi-monthly reviews, we want to be able to give them that information as opposed to saying our next application period is in August.
As a staff, have you discussed whether monthly or bi-monthly is better?
In all honesty, as soon as somebody comes in with an application, which when we had those big rushes, it was a lot of older couples. We sit at the counter and we go through the documents with them right then and there. If they're missing something, they get it back to us. I don't foresee any reason why we couldn't go to monthly. I would never see a time where we're going to get 10 in a month. Bi-monthly at minimum. I mean, I feel like even with our staff load, we could handle most of the paperwork on the client or on the applicant. So I don't know about Lauren, but I don't have an issue if it's going to allow more people to apply and be able to do the program, addressing it monthly.
How much money is in the fund? And I think there was some recommendation at the last meeting that I wasn't at for another TID extension. But how much money, assuming that was passed, how much money is there in that fund?
More
Just
than
a moment and I will
100,000.
pull it up.
New one. Like
170,
34,000.
170, I thought, 169,000 some
Yeah.
odd dollars. Let's carry over from the old one.
So we gotta get working. Wonder if we could afford radio ads. Cause people are-
So the hype fund balance that we showed at that February meeting. Let's see, this is the height, changed after the TID 6 amendment. This
70%.
is, Lauren, correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe that balance is 1,592,637. As of, that would be as of 2031, so as of the 2026, what is this?
I didn't realize that $1 million deal went through.
No, not that one. So it's 1,633,29 would be the projected balance by 2027.
Oh, by 2027.
25, where are we going?
Okay, that's what yeah, I understand that. Do you know what it is today, though? And here's the reason I'm asking the question.
Exact number I don't, but here we go. Sorry, this is really tiny. This one that we just extended would have taken us to 907,543, so 907,000.
At some point, if I'm a taxpayer, I may ask the question, why are you guys accumulating this? If you're looking for a housing and betterment fund, there's a lot of money there. Shouldn't we be doing something else? In addition to the housing betterment fund? A lot of money.
Which is definitely a discussion that we can have,
Just
but that's not part of the agenda tonight.
Yeah.
So, we can talk about other ideas on how to use some of that money and still set aside some for the Housing Betterment Fund. But 75% of that does have to go to affordable housing as defined by HUD.
Can we also discuss increasing, is it right now, it's a maximum of 10,000? Could we change that to a different dollar amount if we agree as a board?
That's also something that we could talk about, but would need to be a different agenda item.
Right.
Just another thought, you talked about targeting neighborhoods, perhaps targeting employers. That's a good chance to meet with the employers as well as to indicate, hey, there's a program out here for a housing and betterment fund. Or maybe it's more expansive than that and saying, in addition to the housing and betterment fund, there's all these other things the village can do too. Which hopefully we can also get you into house.
Yeah, so we have a new community development director and slash deputy administrator who will be starting in a little over a month. And this will be part of their job, will be some of that outreach and doing outreach to businesses and things like that. And so it's something we can definitely add into like a conversational packet.
We're gonna miss you, Lauren.
Well, thanks. I'll still be here, just in a little different capacity.
Okay, so any other questions?
The only question I have about monthly or bi-monthly is sometimes our meetings get canceled or delayed. Is there gonna be any issues if we're on a monthly cycle and a meeting does get skipped?
Normally cancellations aren't for lack of quorum, it's for lack of agenda items. And so it would be an agenda item
Perfect.
that we would have to, so I guess for lack of a better term, justify the meeting. So I don't see that as necessarily being an issue.
Perfect. And then my other question about the closed session or not video recording or whatever, would the scoring still be a public record that the community does if someone requested it?
Yep, so I've actually kept records of all of the scores so far, and I don't have it broken down by this person gave them this score, because that's in the video, but we would keep that record of what the scores were and what the average was so that people would be able to, if they wanted to, request that information and see that, yes, they did meet according to CDA, the minimum requirements.
And there, everything would still be public record. The only change would be the cameras and the audio would go off during that time. And then they would come back on. That's, people could still walk in, they could still request the same information they could before that. We're just hoping that maybe not having everybody's names or faces read out loud. I mean, if they chose to speak in public comment about their application, that would still be on camera and that would be their choice.
I guess then a follow-up question, are there any other items, not just for CDA, but just across the board that are like that, where it's not closed session necessarily, but no recordings happen for it?
There's many meetings that are not recorded. Not every village meeting is recorded to YouTube. So
Would be like the only one that,
Finance committee meetings, not.
no, and we did talk to Brian Kleinmeyer, our attorney. He interpreted it the same way, that
perfect.
cameras could go off because technically we're no requirement to do that.
Any other? Do we have anyone watching or in the public?
I make a motion that we go applications on a monthly basis. You got one written out for us that I can read?
I don't have anything written out because it was all going to be based on the conversation. So I would say, motion to recommend changing the Wanakee Housing Betterment Fund policy to change from a tri-annual review to monthly review period as applications come in. As well as, turning the cameras off, the cameras and audio off during the discussion of the applications in open session.
There's two questions there, but I'll make a motion on the first one that the Housing Betterment Fund processed be monthly. That's my recommendation to the board.
Any comment?
I'll second the motion.
And we don't need to recommend this to village board. This is your policy, so it's whatever you approve is.
Then it's not recommended. It's simply a motion to
Yep.
change to a monthly basis. I assume a friendly amendment would be accepted.
Any other comments, questions? Then we'll call for a vote. It's just a general vote, right? We don't need
Yeah,
it.
but you need a voice vote.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
So we still have the second question.
But the public video and audio.
I guess I could try. I make a motion that we suspend audio and visual during discussions of applications for the Betterment Fund to secure privacy.
That's sufficient.
I'll second.
Any other discussion, comment? Call the vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Wonderful. So there's just one thing left on the agenda.
To adjourn.
I make a motion, we adjourn the meeting.
I'll second the motion.
All those in favor?
Aye.
You did well, David.
Good job, David.
Tough stuff.
Unfortunately, I do not talk and cameras at the same time, so staff's not on camera and also.
Oh, darn.
Jared knows not to let me do this. That's.
So I missed the first part of the conversation.